Happy Money Making Monday, CJ Curry. Back talking some MLB player props with the NBA winding down. Pretty much in full swing with the baseball season and WNBA, so expect a lot more of those type of videos from me going forward. If you're new to the channel here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It's free for you to do. I'll be dropping regular videos talking about different NBA, NFL, MLB, WNBA player props here on the channel. So if you're into those sort of things, this is the right spot, right place for you to be in. Hit the like button for me if you don't mind. Let's try to get as many likes as possible. 100 or more is always appreciated. And without further ado, let's go ahead and slide into today's MLB slate. Now, I play all of my player props, regardless of the sport, over on PrizePicks. If you're new to PrizePicks and never played there before, use promo code CJ Curry, make your first deposit. Whether you win or lose on your first entry, they're going to give you $50 back. So pretty neat offer that they're doing over on PrizePicks. I've left a promo link down in the description of today's video. And in the description of the video, you'll find promo links to everything that I'm involved with, all of the different betting sites, DFS apps, tools. I got you covered for pretty much everything. So let's go ahead and get into today's picks. Now, I'm going to start with some hitters, and we'll talk about some hitter fantasy score props that kind of caught my eye. And the first one that I'm looking at is Cruz of the Pittsburgh Pirates. The only concern I have with this particular player and player prop is this game does have some pending weather concerns, but I'm liking Cruz for more than 6.5 hitter fantasy score. He's a guy who has home run power. He's a guy who can steal bases, and those two things alone are a great reason why you should be playing hitter fantasy score. And hitter fantasy score you're not going to find on your sports books. You can only find it on an app like a PrizePicks, Underdog, etc. But Cruz is in a good spot as long as the weather permits. Taking a look here at some weather information here for this game. Miami at Pittsburgh says that there's going to be a solid line of rain that looks to move in during the game. Some of it may be heavy, causing a long delay or worse. Now, long delays are not what we want when we're betting overs on the MLB player prop market, because if the game gets into a delay, sometimes these hitters and especially the pitchers will not go out there for a full session. In other words, they won't get their full workload. So something to definitely keep in mind here. If you wanted to wait on this prop closer to game time, I couldn't blame you there. But no other real weather issues except for in this Miami-Pittsburgh game. So this one I would definitely proceed with caution, get a clearer picture of the weather situation as you get closer to game time. But outside of that, let's just talk about some projections for Cruz. Going over here, we'll take a look at some of Cruz's numbers against right-handed pitching because he tends to excel against righties. For the season, .931 in terms of the OPS, .266 batting average. Again, we talked about the home run power that he possesses. We talked about the ability to steal bases. So Cruz is definitely in a good spot today. Take a look at his fantasy score projection over on RotoWire. RotoWire's built out a really fantastic tool here. It covers not only MLB props, but NFL, NBA, WNBA, esports, UFC, you name it. RotoWire does a little bit of everything, so definitely check out RotoWire. Link down in the description below. Save you 25% off a 6-month or 12-month subscription of RotoWire, but they're really liking some Cruz to go over 6.5 fantasy score as well. Again, as long as the weather permits. He's projected for 10.42 hitter fantasy score, so that's a very nice projection for Cruz over on RotoWire. Take a look at my favorite MLB projection model, which is going to be the BAT by Derek Carty. They have Cruz all the way up at 10.58 hitter fantasy score projection. Again, if you're going to be using projection models for PrizePicks purposes for hitter fantasy score, make sure you're using DraftKings projections. DraftKings scoring, PrizePicks scoring for hitter fantasy score, exactly the same, 1-to-1. So you want to make sure that you're using the right projections. Don't use FanDuel hitter projections for fantasy score if you're playing hitters on PrizePicks. Use DraftKings, all right? Now, let's go on to pick number 2. Cruz, 6.5 fantasy score. Carlos Santana. Carlos Santana for more than 4.5 hitter fantasy score. He's got some really good numbers against Wade Miley. Wade Miley's a pitcher we haven't seen in quite some time. I was telling somebody in our Discord this morning, I'm actually surprised that Wade Miley's still around. I didn't know he was still around, but apparently he is. And he's facing a guy in Carlos Santana who has some good career numbers, good history versus Wade Miley. So if we take a look at the BVP report for today, over on RotoWire, you see Carlos Santana here going up against Wade Miley. He's got 15 plate appearances or at-bats versus Miley in his career. Of those 15 appearances, 7 hits, 2 hits for extra bases, including 1 home run, 2 RBIs. He's also been walked 4 times, which is why I tend to lean towards the 4.5 hitter fantasy score instead of the 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Those walks, for fantasy score purposes, are worth 2 fantasy points apiece. So if he does get walked, which he has again in 4 out of 15 plate appearances against Wade Miley, that's a quick 2 fantasy points for him. So if he happens to get a walk, let's say, and then maybe a hit, like for a single, that's all he would need, that's worth 3 points. All of a sudden, he's at 5 hitter fantasy score. He only needs 5 to go over. So I could definitely see a situation where he gets walked, gets a single, and goes over 4.5 hitter fantasy score. But yeah, a 467 batting average versus Wade Miley in those 15 at bats, and a 1.312 OPS for Carlos Santana. So what that means is good matchup here for Santana versus Miley in the past, and hopefully he has a good outing today versus Santana as well. So taking a look at some projections here for Carlos Santana versus Wade Miley. Again, 4.5 hitter fantasy score over on PrizePicks. RotoWire has him projected for 7 hitter fantasy score. He's been in a little bit of a slump. I ain't gonna lie to you. 5 straight games now he has went under 4.5 hitter fantasy score, but at some point he will come back to life. And what better time to go back to the well versus a guy than like Wade Miley in this matchup, a guy he's got strong numbers against. So maybe tonight's the night where Carlos Santana comes back to life. Taking a look at a second projection for Santana, we're going to go over to the bat. And the bat has Carlos Santana projected for about 6.95 hitter fantasy score. Again, 4.5 on PrizePicks, so a pretty big differential there when you compare these fantasy score projections versus the lines that PrizePicks has Santana at. Another guy that I'm really liking today, and he's in one of the top projected offenses, is Ketel Marte of the Arizona Diamondbacks versus Emerson Hancock, starting pitcher for the Seattle Mariners. Now, you'll notice something here about Ketel Marte over on PrizePicks. A lot of the plays that they have here are either demons or goblins. They're not offering any of his regular lines. Like if you look at the hits, runs, and RBIs, right? 4.5, 3.5, 2.5. Other than the demons, all you could play is the goblins. Demons or goblins, green or red. So really easy or really hard. They don't have any of his regular prop lines up, which means they're scared. PrizePicks is scared. They think Ketel Marte is going to have a good game tonight. That's why they only want to offer the demons or the goblins. So the one prop that you can take here is the hitter fantasy score. That one's not a demon nor a goblin. He's at 7.5 hitter fantasy score. And if we take a quick peek here at Ketel Marte's numbers, well, he tends to mash right-handed pitchers at a pretty high clip this season. If you take a look, his numbers against righties, 1.182 OPS, very strong numbers. As far as the batting average goes, a 333 batting average versus righties as well. And yes, today's starting pitcher, Emerson Hancock, is a right-handed batter. Now, he's faced Hancock just once, only 2 at-bats, though, so it's a pretty small sample size. Not really enough of a sample to matter, but he walked once and struck out once versus Emerson Hancock. But now that he's seen him once in the past, maybe today he capitalizes and has a good day versus a righty. Right-handed pitchers are his specialty for Ketel Marte. Taking a look at his projections over here on RotoWire, 7.5 fantasy score, projected for nearly 10 on RotoWire. So RotoWire really liking Ketel Marte. Couple of games where he's went under here recently, but overall for the season, pretty strong numbers here for Ketel Marte. Most of the time, he is right around that number of 7 or more hitter fantasy score. We need 8 out of him today. So let's hope today is a bounce back day for Ketel Marte. Now, as far as the Arizona Diamondbacks and their team offensive projections, they're the highest projected from a fantasy score standpoint team today. Arizona Diamondbacks, they play later on tonight versus Emerson Hancock. 38.18 total hitter fantasy score projection for the D-backs, so they expect Diamondbacks to have a pretty good game. Another guy I considered worth mentioning, maybe a Corbin Carroll. If you wanted to take Corbin Carroll, couldn't be mad at you for wanting to explore that option as well. He's having a pretty darn good season. But let's get you one more projection here for Ketel Marte. We'll go back over here to the bat. And when we punch in Ketel Marte's name, 9.66 hitter fantasy score. So they do have him going over by more than 2 hitter fantasy score. So that 7.5 number is looking kind of sweet for him. Moving into a different player prop category for hitters, I'm looking at Vladimir Guerrero Jr. For hitter strikeouts. I'm looking to take the under. I'm hoping tonight he does not strike out against Andre Pallante, a guy who's not really known to be a strikeout artist. I think maybe he gets through Andre Pallante without any trouble, hopefully. And then it'll become a situation where Vlad goes against the bullpen for the St. Louis Cardinals. And then things can get a little dicey when you go against the bullpen guys. But as far as Andre Pallante, I'm not really too worried about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. striking out to him. But let's take a quick peek here at some numbers for Mr. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So we go back over here. I like using RotoWire. RotoWire is just a great tool all around. They have so much helpful information, especially for baseball purposes. He has faced Andre Pallante in the past, just one time from what it looks like here. He had 3 at-bats against him, recorded 1 hit, which was good for a home run, knocked in 2 runners with 2 RBIs there. So no strikeouts in his only appearance against Andre Pallante to date. So kind of liking what I'm seeing there. And as I mentioned before, Pallante, not really a big strikeout type of guy. So going over to RotoWire and checking out some projections here. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for the lean less options. You're seeing the 0.5 batter strikeouts, which is the one we're talking about. It's a lean under option. Let's go under. 0.48 is his projected batter strikeout, so slightly under that 0.5 number. In terms of his strikeouts for this season, about 51% of the games that he plays in, he strikes out at least once. So about 49% of the time, he doesn't strike out. He's currently on a 5-game streak of not striking out. So let's hope that holds up here tonight. So we're going to go back over to EV Analytics and take a peek here at the hitter strikeout prop for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and get a projection for you there. The bat has him projected for 0.48 hitter strikeout. So again, leaning slightly under on that 0.5 number that he's listed at over on PrizePicks. So there's another hitter pick for you. And we're going to wrap things up with the hitters by looking at Shohei Ohtani for more than 1.5 total bases. Shohei's had maybe a little bit of what we would consider a slump. Not that he's been bad. He's been good, in fact, but he hasn't been great. He hasn't been special. He hasn't been Gotani like we're used to seeing. But maybe tonight is the night that he gets back on track and maybe he knocks out a home run against Nick Pivetta, a right-handed pitcher that he's had good numbers against. Taking a look at the BVP, batter versus pitcher report once again here. Shohei Ohtani has now faced Nick Pivetta 12 times, 4 hits. 3 of those hits have been for extra bases. 2 of those hits have been for home runs. He's got 3 RBIs against Pivetta. Now, he has struck out 6 times, so about half of the plate appearances that he has against Nick Pivetta, he has struck out, so that's kind of concerning. But .333 batting average and a 1.25 OPS. So if he gets a hit off of Pivetta, at least based on his past numbers, those hits have typically been for extra bases. We need 2 total bases. And remember, folks, those of you who are not real familiar with MLB player props or betting on MLB player props, total bases, you have to use your bat. If you don't use your bat, it doesn't count. So if you get walked, that doesn't count as a total base. You got to use the stick. Swing that bat, reach base, and you can get more than 1.5 total bases on a double, on a triple, on a home run, or just 2 singles equals more than 1.5 total bases. A lot of different ways he could get there, but he's got to use the bat. All right, he's got to hit the ball in order to get a total base. Walks, hit by pitch, that type of stuff, it don't count. It doesn't count. So anyway, good numbers for Ohtani against Nick Pivetta. Let's take a look at some projections here for Ohtani. Back over to RotoWire. Looking at some Ohtani props, the top Ohtani prop right now is the 1.5 total bases, according to the RotoWire tool here for PrizePicks. They've got him projected for 2.63 total bases. So loving that projection for Ohtani, more than one total base projection higher than his line, 1.13 higher, in fact. So good projection for him over on RotoWire. Taking a look at EV Analytics, which is again powered by the bat. We're going to look at Ohtani's numbers over there as well. Go to the total base category. He's projected for about 2.04 total bases. So they have him for 2 or more TBs today against Nick Pivetta. So liking the numbers here for Ohtani in the past, projecting well today. So a lot of things to love about Shohei. Hopefully it is in fact showtime versus Nick Pivetta. The last guy I'm going to talk about is a pitcher. It's Yusei Kikuchi of the Los Angeles Angels. And 5.5 pitcher strikeouts. I'm looking to take the over here versus the Athletics, who are no longer in Oakland. So I'm just going to call them the Athletics. It's a hard habit, but I got to break it. The A's. All right. So Kikuchi has gone under in a few of his recent games here, but based on this matchup, the projections are really liking Yusei Kikuchi to reach that 6 strikeout threshold or more. Now, just taking a look at the Athletics and their projection for offense, you can see that they're the 4th lowest projected offense today going up against Kikuchi, which is good. I like to look at that because it lets me know that, hey, Kikuchi shouldn't really be stressed out by this A's lineup, which is, good contributor toward maybe him hitting his strikeout numbers. Not really worried about the Athletics from an offensive standpoint, beating Kikuchi up too badly here. He might get in a little bit of trouble. They got some bats in there like Butler and Rooker that can present some problems for Kikuchi, but overall, shouldn't be too much of a stressful pitching outing for Yusei Kikuchi. But let's go take a look at some projections here. And for that, of course, we're going to go back over to RotoWire. RotoWire, for the lean more options on Kikuchi, they like the strikeouts here to go over. They got him projected for 6.02 strikeouts. For the season, it's been a bit of a mixed bag here. He's only gone over in 38% of the starts. He averages right around 5 strikeouts per game at 4.8. As I mentioned to you before, 3 straight games now where he has went under, but he's faced some pretty stiff competition. I don't know that the Athletics are necessarily considered stiff competition for him tonight, but the projection of 6.02 gives me some hope, some belief that maybe he could potentially go over 5.5 strikeouts tonight. So I'm willing to roll the dice on what is kind of a smaller MLB slate. One more projection. Let's go back over to the bat by Derek Carty and take a look at the projection for Kikuchi there. Again, this is arguably the most accurate MLB projection model out there. Of course, it's not going to get everything right because the sportsbook wouldn't exist. They wouldn't even offer MLB player props if this bat projection was getting every single pick right. It would put them out of business, basically. But this projection for Kikuchi on the bat is 6.4 strikeouts. So his number on PrizePicks is 5.5. His projection on the bat is 6.4 Ks. So gotta love what you're seeing there. I mean, that's a betting opportunity if I've ever seen one, almost an entire strikeout projection higher than his line at 5.5. And that's what you're really looking for. You're looking for these gaps, these differentials in projection models versus lines being offered by these sports books and DFS sites. So for me, willing to take a shot on Kikuchi for more than 5.5 pitcher strikeouts. Now, it's funny that I mentioned this player prop because PrizePicks just bumped it up from 5.5 to 6 pitching strikeouts. So there you go. There was some value at 5.5 strikeouts. If you could still find him at 5.5 strikeouts, I would recommend you take it wherever you can find him at 5.5. But apparently now PrizePicks has raised him up to 6, which could mean a tie or push potential. So for me, I don't know that I want to take it at 6. I wouldn't take the over at 6. I would take the over at 5.5. The 6, tie or push, if you're into that sort of thing. It's kind of annoying when it happens, but yeah, it's no longer at 5.5. So there you go. There was some real value there on Yusei Kikuchi. All right. Leave your favorite player prop of the day down in the comments section below. I'm still giving away a free month of Dub Club to one of you loyal, faithful viewers, commenters down there. Just be a subscriber to the channel, hit the like button, and comment your favorite player prop. Doesn't matter which sport. We got one WNBA game. We got a few MLB games. So not a lot going on in the sports world today on this Monday, but hopefully some of these picks hit, and hopefully they find you well. Good luck on all your picks, plays, and parlays. And if you're a Dub Club member, I'll be sending out some slips throughout the day. We'll catch you on the inside. Peace.